Hello and welcome to this video presentation of my Streaming Worlds assignment. I'm Hildebrand and I will be going through this Forsaken template level that I made. It is aiming to create the entire island as a fortress that was once your order that you have to go through, liberate from the cultists, and secure the artifact at the end of it. Here in the beginning, I wanted the feeling of that this place has recently been a large battle, so I have a lot of bodies, I have destruction outside, and the main gate is closed. And you can even see how there are like barricades pointing inwards here in the beginning, which aims to help tell the story that people are being kept inside of this fortress as well, that they're being held there against their will. We are going through into the fog section, so I used the fog as more of a cinematic thing here. I didn't use it too much for a heavier kind of, a sense of combat or anything like that. The lower settings, however, makes it so you can barely see the fog, and that was one of the larger things I think I didn't do too well with this piece, is that on lower settings it loses a lot of the oomph that I was going for, but I couldn't anymore record it, and I didn't unfortunately have time to redo and retexture everything and go through that pipeline again. A quick snack kill to give the player some time to actually use their mechanics, and the soft blockade of the interactables, the crates, were used as a way to teach the player how to pick them up, but also be kind of like a small obstacle in a way. We walk up this main pathway, we see that there are more ships that are burning and broken down, and one of the things that I really liked what I did about this piece was the composition and the actual theme and lighting of the sky. It really feels like nighttime, and it clashes very well against the orange lights. I think I really captured the thief aesthetic. So here we have two options. We can either go into the house and try to jump out the window, or we go and fight those guys to the right. I elect for this video to actually go inside of the house and try to sneak past. And one of the things that I think could have actually helped elevate this piece as well is to have more decorations inside of the lived spaces and served spaces, and not just actually have them be so barren. And I took a lot of lessons from that into my later on pieces, especially for my portfolio. Then we have this quick kind of like one-on-one duel, because I wanted to force the player into combat, and I think that I wanted to have like a scenario where you couldn't use any interactables around you. It was just you and him, but in a safe space, so you can run around backwards through the stairs if you wanted to. Heading upwards, I wanted to continue this thing where the barricades are pointing inwards, which makes the player wonder what has actually happened here, and help tell the story that people have tried to break out and flee these cultists who have taken over this place, but they have been kept inside against their will, and that is the reason why a lot of the windows also have this yellow light. So this is one of the larger combat sequences I have. I wanted to have these choke points with the interactables that you can actually use and throw against the enemy so they fall over continuously. So you kind of like play a ring around the rosy a lot here and pick up the boxes and throw them down again. One thing I noticed is that the template unfortunately has a problem where the crate interactables aren't destroyed immediately after you throw them. I couldn't figure out why. It wasn't something I want to spend time on either, but essentially the idea is that I try to use one of each interactable here just to showcase how it would work. So you only have so many interactables for that little choke point, so you can't just pick them up over and over again and continuously and infinitely ragdoll them. Then when that is done, we head onwards. We go through this little dog bone I created here to load in and load out the levels, and I think I did a pretty okay job of like setting up this next shot, and I was really happy with the composition overall of the moon looking down towards the snack hill and giving you just a little bit of a reward for the fight you had just recently. And you get a choice here of either going left and going the safer, darker route, which is why it's not as lit, or going into the fire and taking on more enemies. So here you can see that you have this one enemy you have to deal with, so we take him down, and we just cut it up. But for the sake of this, I decided to actually go back around just to showcase what the other section looks like. And I really like the composition and how I set up the tattered banners with the fire, and the combat sequence here is something I actually kind of liked. So we have one enemy here to begin with in the fire, because I wanted them to walk around and feel like they are trying to like throw more and more stuff into the fire to burn down, right? Maybe the townspeople in the sequence have tried to riot and they are now destroying their property as a part of a punishment. So here I tried a few different things in this combat scenario. I wanted the awning system that Tony created in the Forsaken template, and it didn't really pan out in this section, but I think that I learned how to time it better and also how to create my own awning systems later on. But overall, I really liked this kind of like S shape I put into this combat scenario, where it's so chaotic that you are a little bit confused where the enemies are coming from, which adds to the tension. It did have the unfortunate thing where characters like this, for example, didn't actually pan out. They sometimes didn't actually walk along the nav mesh. And one of the greatest challenges with this was, because I wanted the thief aesthetic, it became very demanding graphically, so I had to do a lot of decisions when it came to loading in and loading out sections. And unfortunately, that together with the Forsaken template became very difficult, where there were things that would break and sometimes crash the system. And we have seen a couple of these cuts because of that, where they kind of like, where I made the transition from one clip to another just because the system keeps crashing, and to fix that I would have to remove more graphical quality to the point where it would take so much time that I wouldn't be able to fix it. Essentially, it would take way too long. But we get into section. I have the look at trigger to create the sense that the moon is going red, and I try to make a composition thing where you walk up to the moon and look directly at it close enough where that actually happens. And we have this point of no return where the gate pulls up again, and I create this little sandbox combat area again just to give the player a sense of like they're locked in here. The AI is supposed to patrol and see you immediately as you enter here, but unfortunate thing about the Forsaken patrols is that they are kind of hard to interact with, and I didn't learn until the second year how to deal with it, but it was something I took with me into the next year on what I want to prove upon the template. And here again we can see that the AI has broken, unfortunately, but the idea is that you have to fight inside this small barracks before you can get through. And now we see the actual cathedral that you're supposed to go to. We have this long hallway that's supposed to create this very nice composition, and I was actually very happy with this. And what I don't show in this video is that I have another gate raised up behind you. I just forgot to turn around, but there is another gate that blocks the path, so now you can't actually back up into the barracks when fighting these two. And here I have the animated sequence, so the door turns around and it opens up, ominously inviting. So what I want to create here is that the player is being invited inside, and if they don't go around but enter here instead, they are in for a surprise. It's a trap. So now you have all of these enemies you have to take on at once, and you have to plan accordingly. So what I want to do with this combat is that you lead them down into the choke point or out into the courtyard, ideally in here. But if you lead them in here, you have a lot of these crates, you have the spike boards you can try and utilize, and I think I actually create a fun combat scenario where you try to manage the amount of enemies that are up by picking up the crates and throwing again. So you have time to deal with one of them at a time, maybe two of them at a time. One of the issues with this template is sometimes you can't tell when they are ragdollized or when they are actually dead. So you can see me here continuously stabbing them when they're down, because I can't tell sometimes. Here I tried it out with the mechanic, and unfortunately he just clips through the spike board, which was a bit unfortunate. It's a bit finicky, but very satisfying. If I had more time, or I didn't have as many issues as I had during the production of this, I probably would have taken time to increase the power of the kick, just to make it so that you can actually kick them reliably into the spike boards. I didn't get to showcase them as much in this piece, but I think that they are a fun mechanic to have. But overall, I was really happy with this part of the combat scenario, where you have to continuously juggle between the enemies and the boxes. I think they actually did that pretty well. So we head upwards into this cathedral. We have just a short section here where we give them a bit of a breather, we give them time, and then we head on upwards into the final room. So in this final section, I wanted the gate so you can see the blue artifact. It clashes against a window, unfortunately, but you can see also there was one enemy there at the end. So you get up here, and the AI is not patrolling, unfortunately, but I couldn't solve the issue for that. So you just get to take them out. So I let that be, so you get this sense of power that you're taking this guy by surprise, because I didn't think you would survive the trap. Overall, this last boss battle is just for fun, essentially. I just upped his HP and gave you some tougher enemy to fight. But overall, a lot of technical difficulties, and I learned a lot about when to stream things out, when to stream out, when to stream in, and the actual technical limitations I have. Thank you for watching. See you next time.